Get started then. I am Andy Hartvigsen. A little bit about me. I've been working as a developer for just about 8 years now. Half of that will be 4 years at STG on Saturday. So right now I work for a project for the LDS Church in their finance department, which part of that we do use, they're migrating their front end to React and Redux. So I haven't worked on that a ton recently, but I have done some, so that's where I kind of got introduced to it. Other than that, I also do a little bit of a side work for the Department of Agriculture here and there. So that's where I'm at. So we started. So all right. So what is Redux? It is a very kind of small framework for managing your state in single page applications. So it's there to make it so your state is predictable and you know what it's going to be after any inputs you give it, so that it's so that you have just one source of data you're going to, and it's not little bits and pieces here all over the place that might be updating each other. So it can be used with any JavaScript framework. Most people kind of associate it with React, but you can use Redux with Angular, AngularJS, jQuery, just plain JavaScript. It's not specifically tied to any specific framework. So so there are three basic principles for Redux. First is that you have just a single state for your whole application. There isn't a state for this page and a state for that page. It's all one state that you're manipulating. And that state is read-only. So whenever you make any changes to it, you're not actually changing the state, you're creating a whole new state. So it makes it so that it's a lot more consistent. You're not going to have something that changes it over here and then something that changes it over here and you don't know about it, since it's once you change it, it needs to be recreated. So, and the way you change it is just through just normal JavaScript functions. We'll get to what those are called in a second, which actually they're called reducers. So the reducer is just a straight, pure JavaScript function. There's nothing else really special about it. It will take what they call an action, which is how you're going to change the state and the previous state. So you pass in what the state is currently and what you want to do, and it takes that action and handles it and creates the new state. So yeah, and then it returns the new state. So yeah, you can keep the references to objects that haven't changed, but if you're changing anything, you need to create a whole new object for it. And it helps keep your state clean and stuff, because you won't have something referencing an old portion of the state that you don't realize.
That reducer can be used for the single, because the single, what is that?
Action. So a reducer will be able to handle multiple actions. So like in one reducer file, normally you'll have a case statement that to check what action it is, and then it handles that action based on it. And you can have multiple reducers and then combine it all down into the main reducer if you want to. All right, so then actions. Yeah, it's the minimal representation of the data being changed. So it's a just JavaScript object. And the only requirement is that it has to have a property type defined. And that type is what the reducer uses to tell what action has been called. So other than that, you put into it what other changes are being made in the data. So you can have as little or as much in the action as you want. It's better to have as small as you can get in each action for what changes you're making. So, and then there is the store. The store implements the 3 principles of Redux, which it holds the current state, it dispatches the actions, and then it also specifies the reducer. So the store is kind of what ties it all together. So, so when you're setting up your application, you create your store with the initial state, and then also give it the reducers, like tell it where all your reducers are and define them there. So, and then yeah. So it has 3 main functions you can call with it, which are get state, which is just to return the state object, which is just a JavaScript object, like a state tree object kind of thing. And then dispatch, which will dispatch the actions. And then the last one is subscribe, which I haven't done a ton with subscribe, so I'm not 100% sure everything you'd use it for. From looking at their documentation, it's for having action listeners and change listeners, and being able to kick off and dispatch some actions from there when certain data changes. But I haven't dealt with that too much, so I'm not sure the exact use cases for that. So other thing that is really nice with Redux is that the data flows one direction. So you don't have data bouncing back and forth between separate things. And you always know where the data is going and coming from. So it starts when you dispatch an action, which then in turn calls a reducer. And then that reducer will create the new state and then update the store. And then the store will then dispatch the next action when it's necessary. So, all right. So this is where I got a lot of the information for it. The redux.js.org has a lot of really good information and examples. This egghead.io has some pretty good videos for getting started and stuff like that. So I would recommend checking both of those out. All right, so that's it for the PowerPoint. We will. All right. Let's go through some of the examples they have on the Redux website, and kind of show you the code and stuff. Okay, so this is a basic to-do app that they have. So I can type in, let's see, like
Buy beer.
okay, buy beer. It updates. Let's say present brown bag. It updates, and then they have actions. When you click, it updates whether it's done or not, and then you can show the active or completed or all kind of thing. And then, okay. So I had it where it is every time it calls an action, I had it log it, and then also put the display the store. So you can see the last one we called set visibility, and it sets it to show all. And
Can you zoom in now?
yeah, there we go. So before it was set, it only had one, or it didn't have anything in there. And then this is what the store looks like with it set for the visibility. So, and you can see that, yeah, one is completed, one's false. And if I go back here and mark this one, and we come back, it's still showing one false because it's logging it out before it actually kicks off the action. So here, let's go. Up here, I'm looking at the code for this to do. So we'll start with the actions. It's bigger. So you can see they're just basic objects. So for add a to-do, like it has the type that we said, has an ID, and then it has the text of it. So we're not even, when we create a to-do, I don't think we are adding in the completed until then. So if we look at the reducer, okay, yeah, we are adding completed false. So when we call the action here, it creates it, it puts in the next ID, and then the text from that text box. And then it will, it will go here to the reducer, and then the switch statement goes off of the action type, and then it gets here and it returns the state with adding in the next to-do object to the list. And then you see here when we click on one of the to-dos to mark it completed or not, all we do is change that one and then return everything else. So, and then over here, we have a separate reducer file for the setting the visibility, which is just setting that flag, and then the actual React page handles the sorting and stuff. But then here is where we combine all the reducers into one. In the index.js under the reducers folder. And then in the main index for the thing, we import that root reducer that's combined them all. And then we create the store passing in those reducers. And then if we want to look at the components for, let's see, I think it's in the footer. Yeah, okay, so the footer has the visibility, the links to set that visibility filter. And then select the to-do list. It's just, this is mostly just React, other than right here, we're calling this toggle to do, which is the function it calls, where is this set? I can't remember now. There's a place where it sets that to actually call the dispatch. I think it's in, or no, it's in the reduce or the action. So it's, yeah, so it creates this right here. And where was it? They have it set up to call the dispatch. I can't remember in this one where it is. But I can show you in the one I've done. So I also created another app on my own to display movies. First of all, does anybody have any questions about that kind of stuff?
This is a Windows version of Atom.
Yes.
It does all the linting and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think you have to install separate packages or something.
Yeah, I haven't done too much with that other than for this. So
on the store, is that when you were logging, is that just the contents that are in the store?
yes, it is it is the current state of the store that's in the store when I was logging that. So
The store is more than just,
yeah. So here you can see, like, I'm just logging the state and the action. So here, so this action is showing me, it's just, yeah, like show active or, yeah, or no. So this is like, yeah, so this is the store the part of the store that filter or the reducer sees for the show visibility is that it can see this part of the tree, which is the filter. Or, oh no, so this is the action actually, because you see as the type set visibility filter, and we're setting it to show all. And then, yeah, so then this action is the toggle, when we toggle it. All right, let's clear this out and do, like, add another one, and I'll make it a little more clear. So, it's something you can add. Let's see. Take a nap. It needs to be on my to-do list more often. So if we see here, you can see it actually gets displayed twice because it is hitting both this to-do reducer and the visibility filter reducer. And since the visibility filter, it doesn't have any action with the type of add to do, it just returns back its current state. But then in the to-dos, it adds it into the to-do list and returns that part. So if you notice here, like this state, the default is just an empty list. And then this one, it sets it by default to show all. When you combine the reducers, it combines those two pieces of each reducer's separate state into the main single state for the whole application. So this reducer only knows about the part of the state that it applies to. And so it can't manipulate in here anything of the to-dos other than the visibility filter, what it's set up. It's locked into its own scope, yes. But yeah, okay, so let's go back over here. So we see, yeah, so when it hits the first one, it does this is the action that gets passed in. We have an add to do, it gives us the next ID and the text of it. So the action itself doesn't have the completed flag. That was in the reducer where that gets added in. So you can see that, yeah, the action contains the ID and the text, and then we add the filter or the completed flag. So this is the state before it gets added. And you can see that those objects have completed and stuff. So, and then this is the, from when it hits the visibility reducer, and then that's the state that's in there is just the single object that's show all. So if we come here and let's just toggle this to active and then come back here. So we set the visibility filter, and then we can see here that those, yeah, we can now see the one we added and those false. And then we see that it was show all, and we're setting it to show active. So, all right. So for
The business logic goes in the actions, right?
No, it's the logic is in the reducer. The action is specifying which reducer will get called and what data has changed. How the reducer then takes those changes and applies it to the state is up to the reducer. Because it takes those changes and recreates the next state with it.
Say all of that again so I can absorb it.
Okay, so when you dispatch an action, and that action will have the type, and the type specifies which reducer will get called. And then the action also contains what changes have been made or that you want to make, kind of thing. So you could put in either the data changing, like with we added to do, we put in the text of the new to do and its ID, or we can put in like a specific flag or something like that. The reducer then says, okay, you gave me this flag, I make this change because of that, kind of thing. And then the reducer is what takes that change and updates the state.
There is no like defined type that you would use for the things that you want to change. You could pass in a string, you could pass in an array.
The only requirement for the action is that you have one property called type that's a string. Other than that, everything else that you pass in.
That type is just define it what reducer.
Yes.
And then after that, you pass in whatever matches up with what that reducer is going to be expecting.
Yes. So, yeah. So like if we come back here to the action, yeah. So you see the add to do expects. So it has the type add to do. It passes in the next ID and the text. The visibility just has the filter. The toggle just has an ID. And then this is just constants for the visibility filter so that not just passing random strings. It's a constant object that has that string in it. So you don't have to, if I wanted to change this string, I don't have to change it everywhere. I just change it here, kind of basic thing. So, and then, yeah, in the action, we have this switch statement that looks at the type, and then we go through each case saying, okay, if it's add to do this. If it's toggle to do this. And you always want to have a default that returns the state as it is if you don't hit any of those actions in the reducer.
Is that?
Because if you're passing an action that you don't know what it does, you don't really want your application to just blow up on you. And that way you just leave the state as it is.
So does it always expect to get the state back? Is that?
Yes, it expects to get, the state back. So, you either want to return the current state if you're not making any changes, or the new state that you've created when you've made the changes.
State is just a global variable.
Yeah. that
It's defined and
it's in the store. Yeah. So here I can show you, and
Better at the top of the file, or is it really just an array of objects?
for this part of the state, yeah, it is an array of objects. The entire state itself is just one object tree, essentially. So you have one object that's the state, and then this portion that's the to-do list is just a list of to-do objects.
That scope section.
Yes.
Goes with that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So the main state itself is just an object tree. So,
And it tracks which filter, which action.
yeah.
Which
Uh-huh. Yeah. So here, will.
with Redux, there's no framework that you install or any reference you need to add or anything like that, or just like a methodology to kind of.
No, there is stuff you do install. I can show you. Here. So like here, yeah. So in the package, so you do install or Redux right here, and React Redux for if you're using React. But yeah, it is a really small package. I think that on their website they said it's less than 2 kilobytes with all its dependencies. So it is very compact because there is the functionality of the store that has its functions for like the dispatch and get store or get state and the subscribe and stuff like that. So if we go,
Does it come with a default object for state and stuff like that?
you can set that, which I do in this app. Oh, I forgot to clean this up a
You
little.
always have to set that? It doesn't-
No, you don't. If you don't set it, so like right here, if I wanted to, or here, so here I could set a default state where I just create the object and then I pass that as the second parameter to create store. So if I don't, it just creates an empty object for the store. Here, I am creating an initial state for this section of it. And so I create a list of movies, and see here, I tell it instead of state equal, like in the to-do list, we said state equals an empty list. Here I'm passing in this initial state, or where is it? Yeah, right here. Yeah, I say state equals initial state. So for this reducer, I pass an initial state, so that way when it starts up, I have movies in the list instead of it being an empty list. And so for this one, I just have it. So, all right, what's a movie we should add to the list?
2000.
How do you spell Odyssey? Close enough. I know that did not come out in 1967. All right, and then it's probably like PG, because PG-13 didn't exist then. So, and then we click add movie, and it will add it to the bottom. And then I have it so that when I click on any of the headings, it will then sort by that column.
Is that a reducer?
That is a reducer changing. It actually is two reducers. One changes the filter, and then the second one goes through and sorts the list in the state,
Passes back up.
and then passes it back, packed up to the state. So, which we can look at that right here. So you can see add movie, it takes the whole movie and so the form elements, I'll go back to that really quick. Form elements are just these parts right here, which it should be clearing that out. I must have changed something so it's not. It should be resetting it right there, but it's not apparently. And then it adds the new movie we created to the list of movies. And then delete removes that one from the list. And then
The reducer we're looking at?
yes, this is the reducer. So, and then when we set sort column, so this is the reducer that handles the movie list, and then this is the reducer that handles the sort column, which column we're sorting on. So this sets which column we're sorting on, and I'm calling the same the same action has something that happens in both reducers. I don't know if that's quite what they want you doing, but that's what I ended up doing here. So it sets the column, and then when it comes through here, it then calls the sort list, which goes up here and then sorts based on which column is currently set. Which I realized this morning, I'm like, I don't know how it knows which one to call in the right order. And I might just be getting lucky on that one right now. So I would have to look into that more, why it's actually calling those in the order it is. So, and if you can specify which one, if I wasn't getting lucky, the thing that I would really want to do is call, is after I create the new state, call another or dispatch another action here that would then resort based on the new state kind of thing.
I think the reason it's working is because both are responding to the same action.
Yeah, they both do respond to the same action.
So it's not dependent on the state, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter this one changes. I'm getting lucky in that this one updates before it tries to sort the list, because it does them in an order, and I don't know how you can, or if you can set that order that the two would hit and be executed.
But I mean, it's using the column that's specified in the action, so it doesn't matter what the state is.
Was it using it? Oh yeah, it is actually. That's probably one reason why.
Yeah, so order shouldn't.
Yeah, the order shouldn't matter. So as it is right now, I really didn't need this part of the action. If I was going to have some sort of display on here, which like make one bold and stuff, for which it's sorted by, that's where it would be good to have it set both. So, but the main thing being, you can see it's like this part of the state knows about what the sort column is set at. And then this part of the state handles the list of movies. Yeah. And then, let's see. So yeah, and in here I just have the actions. It's really similar to the to-do. Just add, set, sort, delete, and then update for the form for adding a new one. So if we wanted it to go in and delete this one, it will, which the delete does it by ID and not index in the array that they're contained in. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Store versus state.
The-
Description of each.
The store holds the state. and also has the functions for like dispatch and get state, subscribe, which handles listeners and stuff like that. The state is the object that holds the state of the application. I wish I had a whiteboard right here. I could draw that. So.
States.
Yeah, well, there is only one state. The reducers may only be able to see a certain thing that's in their scope, but the store only has one state object. And so it is one object for the whole thing.
An action is just passed.
Yeah, the action is passed and then the individual reducers. So, because if you know.
You just happen to call it state.
Yeah, it's just in the individual piece, it's state. So you notice here, I'm only passing a single reducer into the store. And that root reducer here, it is combining all the other reducers. And so each reducer maybe have its own local state, the scope of what it can see. But the main application in the store has all of that combined together into a single object. So if like for the movie portion of it, it had the form elements, which was an object, and then movies, and then movies, which was a list, and then we had the sort column, which was then like a string essentially. So this is what the store for the entire application would look like. Where when we, let's see, when we look at it for just here, I'm not printing out the store here. This is an object. So if we looked at, or like when we were looking at it before and it had separate, the little separate states for the visibility filter and the to-do list, those were portions of the entire state, and it would be if you called just get state, it would be from the store itself, it would be the entire thing. Yeah. So like if I haven't tried doing this. So let's see.
What it calls the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, so I can kind of show you in the components. So I have the movies list component, and you can see when I,
This is React.
yeah, this is React. You can see when I pass, or let's see, let's go into the main app. So the movie list, I only pass in the movies part of this, which when I was getting this together last night, it actually goes movies and then movies again underneath for the list of movies. So there's movies, and then under that there's form data and movies kind of thing. It kind of got a little convoluted because I was trying to make it work last night. So yeah, it would get refactored a lot cleaner if I spent a little more time after this on it. And then you can see in the movies list, we're mapping out and passing each individual movie from that list to the movie one, where then React creates that single row for the table. And then we're also passing in the delete. Okay, so this is the one other thing I wanted to show. So right here, this is for part of the React stuff. We're matching, we map the state from Redux to the props in React. And this is, where is it? We do, yeah. So the React Redux has this function connect, and that's it can take two properties that's map state to props and match dispatch to props. So here I create some functions that say dispatch this action, and that's how those actions get dispatched. So if we go here into add movie, we can see where I say this.props.add movie. That's actually calling dispatch and passing the action add movie into there. So.
One question about the React. When you're using the component, just remind me the Angular, but the one thing that I've noticed that all the CSS, all the HTML is in the React too.
Yes.
But they don't make it separate.
No. When you're doing stuff with React, you don't have any HTML files. It's all JavaScript files. So you can see you have render and then you return essentially the HTML code. So it makes it so it's like I can use this add movie as like here I just say add movie and then it creates it down. And so like here I also say movie list and I have the movie list and then part of the movie list is another component which is the movie. And so I could reuse the movie somewhere else, but it would have to be kind of in that same context that I know the movie is returning a row to a table.
My point is all your business rule is not in the component, it is in the reduce.
The what is in the reduce?
Yeah. Business logic.
Yes, the business logic is in the,
Business logic.
yeah, there isn't,
It's all right.
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it is not in the component.
No.
Component is look like, calling the object and display it in
Yeah.
the HTML, and all
Yeah.
business is in the reduce.
See, the most logic in any of the components like this is the button when we click it saying disperse this action for deleting the thing. We don't actually delete it here in the component. The most we do is dispatch an action. So yeah, and then yeah, that's right. All the business logic is in the reducer that actually manipulates the
I
state.
never use the reduce, but when you say action, then it means the first action, then it said, okay, I go to the reducer to find where it's.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the action I want to take. The reducer, which I can't remember where they got that naming from. I think it's because like the reduce function within like functional programming where you apply
So,
something,
for example, if
I
you
can't
have
remember
action
exactly now.
here, add, something, and in the other action has add something, then reducer knows which action you're calling. Is there any?
Yeah. So, well, if you like in my example, how I have two different reducers that have the same action, it doesn't know if they have the same type, it will call both of them. So that type is where you really specify which reducer.
Okay, then you make it like a casting.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah. So yeah, like how I had it. So here, how I have a set sort column. So that's the action type. And then also in the sort column, I have a set sort column. So if I did not want both of them to happen from that one action, I would have to change the type within one reducer kind of thing and say this. So this is set sort column. And then this is here in the movies, make this one say sort table. And that when I change the sort column, then that also kicks up, like dispatches another action that says sort table.
So this question is very, repeating so but so as an architecture, when you're adding, for example, you have many pages and you wanted to do that, and do you do it based on the page? Or do you make it like based on the page and the share? For example, for the sort, maybe they are sharing the same things. The only things is changing is the column names, but it doesn't matter which table it is. Maybe it's
Mostly for single page apps. Though, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to,
How do it's not when the application is getting bigger and bigger.
yeah.
It's gonna be a little bit,
Yeah, you do have to, figure out how to differentiate those actions between different sections of the app. So it's not something I've had to deal with.
Right, so it's from the backend.
Yeah, they're all same. Yeah, there's only the one store and the single state that's getting called. So if you like, well, because like how I dispatch one action and we can see that it hits both of the reducers. So it will call all the reducers in your application that you have out there. And so if any of them have that same one, then it will hit that in the switch statement for each of the reducers. So
The reducer has kind of a reduced view of the state. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a module. Right?
yeah,
So you're supposed to just deal with a certain one module of the app or something like that.
yeah. So like going through this, it's like the very basic ideas of it, like with the data flow, is very simple. But once you really dive deep, it has a lot of nuances to it. But I definitely like it for the simplicity of how it manages things, and that you don't have to worry about, well, I sent data over here and I have to wait for it to come back to update, but this is sending me data too that's updating at the same time. There's a really good one I can show you. The with having the state be like only like one action at a time and stuff like that, changing it, you can, if you get the logging set up right, you can see this is the state before, this is the action, this is the state after, kind of thing. And you can follow it step by step through to see where something changed that caused a bug. And they actually have another library for being able to do like undo and redo with Redux. So here, let's start that. They have an example of it too. Oh, shoot. Yeah, to be able to kind of undo and redo an action.
So can you code in your component, which is like HTML code, another page here?
Yeah,
Another
like,
with the HTML here, but not repeating yourself.
yeah, like, so like within one component, call a function in another component. Yeah, I think you can. I haven't really done it a ton, but
Because in the
yeah.
app already.
I think you would maybe not want to do that too much, because it's like you might reuse that component in another place where it won't really have access to do that kind of thing. Like you want to keep the,
You share.
yeah, as long as that thing is always shared with that specific component, like that you're always using the one component within another type of component that it's calling, kind of thing, and not like, I don't know, it's a good example, but like, yeah, if you had a component that's used here and here and they're not related at all, kind of thing, and they try and call different things, that might get messy.
For the not rating yourself, so
Yeah.
there's some components that like rating.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to rate in here, in here, in here.
Uh-huh.
So that's you want to put it in the show, just that.
Yeah. So I think you would do that with like components, how you would do that with inheritance within objects themselves anyway. So you would, if you think of a component as an object itself, that it's a display object instead of like a holding data, that and create and manage them that way. So you can have the things that like, okay, this component uses these base parts, so I don't have to repeat myself. And then this is the subcomponent that has the different things. Yeah, that's kind of how you'd want to do it. Okay, so with the redo, so if I type get here, Like, oh shoot, I didn't want to do that. I can say undo, or I can say redo. It's done. I can say undo, kind of thing. And then like, so if I said, let's see, what's another good one? Let's see, chop, firewood.
So does the undo work by returning it to the previous state?
Yes, I believe that is. I haven't looked too much into that one. There for that one. So it is. No, this is a. So this has a separate library here. That's Redux Undo that handles that, and so they've probably gone in and done things to record and keep track of so many of the because I'm sure they don't keep an infinite list of all the actions and state changes you've done.
Mostly undo is just that easy to read.
Yeah, so I'm guessing what happens is that they have this. They'll probably have two lists, kind of a thing. That's like previous states for the undo, and then like the ones for the redo, and they just push and pop kind of thing and return those.
Undo, you can't go back multiple steps, can you?
Yeah, I believe you can. That's what is. So if I say chop firewood, so if, and then I mark that, and then what?
Good job.
Great job. I was like, oh shoot, undo that, and I didn't chop the firewood, and see it unmarked chop firewood, and I don't want to chop firewood, and I definitely did not get beer yet today, so there. And then if I want to redo, I can. Yeah.
If you read it in the middle, it'll be something different, presumably it drops.
Yeah, it's just like your undo and redo in most other applications is what it is. So I don't know the limit of how many undos you can do, because I've seen some applications where that's like 5 and stuff like that you can do, which always sucks when you need that 6th one. But I don't know what the limit is.
As a limit, you cannot.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what that is for this, if it does have one. So, because if you think about it, if it's a really big application,
Undo at 100 steps.
Yeah.
Your UI specs.
yeah, if you need exactly. So, and that's going to be a lot of information you're storing for the state for every time you're hitting undo and stuff, especially if your state is large. So.
One thing I'm really because I'm new. So in the reviews, you creating a new state.
Yes, you are always creating a new state. You're
And also updated that new state, or does it have to take a current state?
So you can, for when you are creating your new state, it is a new object. So like if you printed out like the memory reference for it, you would see that it's pointed to a different spot. It's not the exact same object. Within that state object, if you have objects in there that you haven't changed, you can still use the same reference to that object. So you don't have, like when I'm adding a to-do or a movie or something like that, the visibility filter, the sort filter doesn't have to change. So that can be the same reference because it hasn't changed. But the to-do list, since we're adding one to that, we create a whole new list, and that's what gets added into the new state that's created. So, yeah.
That makes sense with the undo and stuff like that. Just because it's creating a new state and new reference, the previous is just a list of all those references to the previous states.
Yeah. So it just doesn't delete those references immediately. So, yeah. And that's why I think it's super easy to have undo and redo with Redux, is because you don't have to manipulate data. You're just going to the previous state. So.
Potentially even just be keeping track of the actions, not necessarily the state.
Yeah.
The state should be the same action.
Yes. So yeah, like for the redo, if you have that action object, you can apply it to so if you have the previous state and the action, you will get the same state returned every time. Yeah, or for the redo. So like if you have the same beginning state and the same action, you will always get the same state returned.
Unless part of the action is we're generating random.
Which you should never do in a reducer. It specifically says you should not be doing that kind of stuff, or calling things like date, like create a new date object for the current time. That you shouldn't be doing those things in the reducers.
Because that could potentially break the undo and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the point of Redux, is that if you have the same state and the same action, you should always get the exact same state in return. So. Any other questions? Looks like we're just out of time.
Try the Redux dev tools.
No, I haven't.
Just like a Chrome extension. Yeah, it's easier because it'll show like what the state tree looks like.
Yeah. Oh, I think I may have done that like last year when I was actually doing some stuff on the project with it, but I haven't messed with those in a while. So yeah, I remember something like that, you could step through, like you could look through and it'd show you, before and after and so it'd show you the state, the action, and then the new state, which was pretty nice for debugging and stuff like that. So, all right.
So are there any other bad practices or things to avoid when you're using Redux?
I am not sure. I haven't dove that deep into it yet, so I think they like to they like to keep it pretty simple. Of the
Predict my future.
well, we're out of time. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this was based kind of off of Flux a little bit. I remember them talking about Flux and Elm were the two things that they the bulk of the ideas for this came from. It looks like they cherry picked what they felt worked best with a bunch of different other frameworks for this kind of thing. And so, yeah, that's I think why it's called Redux, is a little bit from Flux and React and stuff like that. So, and I think the reducers came from another framework called Elm. I'm not really familiar with that. So
how does the versioning go with Redux? Do they come out with a lot of new versions?
I'm not sure. I haven't been staying up to date.
Which company using that Redux, or like is Google using this? Is there any?
I'm not 100% sure who uses Redux. I think a lot of companies that use React probably use Redux because they seem to have a lot of tools for the two kind of thing. Because like how they have the React Redux library that this is using to connect the two and stuff like that. I'm not 100% sure on that. So.
Yeah, I know Facebook hiring the guy that wrote it, so.
Okay. So didn't Facebook create React?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they need Flux.
Yeah.
Is that because they have?
Yeah.
All right.
Probably pretty generous with salary.
Something.
So.
Looking at the notes down at the bottom of that, you want to say yes. Looks like they have a compatibility list at the bottom for the undo.
Yeah.
That's the latest version of React, I think.
Yeah, that's this is on theirs. So yeah.
Looking at no IE list.
Yeah. Because I'm trying to remember. I know there's some JavaScript functions like the object.assign that they rely on for creating state and stuff like that, which I know doesn't work in older versions of IE. I was very happy when the church decided that we don't have to support Internet Explorer anymore, because that was always a pain. So, yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for coming. So.